Hey, welcome to another edition of Kyle Meredith with. It's the interview series presented by WFPK at WFPK.org, Consequence, and the Consequence Podcast Network. Thanks as always for making your way here, for checking out the series. You know what to do if you like what you see, what you hear. Hit that subscribe button. I put out 3 new interviews every single week, so it's a great way to keep up with all of your favorite artists. I'm so excited to have him here. Danny O'Donohue from The Script is here, back with a new record called Satellite. Hello.
Boom. How are you? Great
I'm
intro.
great,
Um,
man. You know, it's tried and true intro. 6 years of saying the same thing with somebody's name different. I can do it in my sleep, and I probably do.
yeah,
So
has anybody put them all together? What you say in the intro is exactly the same, but like having like 15 of you on the screen,
I
they're all
think
doing it.
I've been waiting for people to realize that I wear about the same 3 shirts for every interview, and no one's picked up on that yet. So
And literally, you just said three shirts, so which means that you're probably in the boxer shorts right now. Nobody can see on the Zoom.
who's to know? Who's to know?
Exactly. I just wear like little tidy top belly tops. That's it. Nobody can tell.
Little crop top right there. That'd be really fun.
Yeah.
Hey, it's been fun watching you all. The stuff you've been putting on a video. Yeah, I know you've been on tour with Pink through most of this year, which
Yeah.
looks like it's been a blast. I was watching the vlog, the video blog that you all posted
Sure.
recently, and it's so many snapshots, and there's this half a second thing, and I'm like, they're in like an anti-gravity chamber, like no context, no story, no, and just like, hey, we are floating. And that's it. Like, what the hell's going
Well,
on? When did you do that?
Well, it wasn't a chamber. It was actually in an airplane.
Oh,
We
you
were
were
up.
up there.
Yeah, we went up. One of the days was actually in Vegas. I got the opportunity to go along to Zero G, which is a company that they basically trained some of the NASA pilots. But when they go into space, you get to go and do a free fall. So, they do a thing called a parabolic like up and down kind of motion, which is that it goes up to a certain height and then it just literally plummets, free falls down to the ground, but at the same speed that a human would fall. So you basically end up reaching zero G, so zero gravity, while you're on the airplane. So they kind of go up and down, and they do this like 15 times. And each time it goes up, you're like stuck to the ground, and then it goes over the top like a roller coaster, and then you just take off, like, throwing your phone in the air, it's floating, everything's
How did you
moving
do?
around.
Like, did you do okay?
Yeah, I was all right. I mean, I was there to shoot, to be honest, because the album is called Satellites, and I was there to shoot. We put up these little mini videos, visualizers on our site all the time on Instagram and stuff. And look at that. My fiance just made me a cup of tea.
E
That's why you're the one,
Success.
baby. um, and yeah, so I got the opportunity to go up there, and I was gonna do a visualizer, which was like basically me. I thought it'd be, how cool would it be, me with a guitar floating in space singing Satellites. So I tried to do like a serious version of it and just be like sitting there. But like every time I tried to do it, someone was coming kicking me in the face, or someone I was turning over, or Glenn's ass would come by the screen or whatever. It's just like really funny. So then it ended up being like not a sentimental piece, but it ended up being quite hilarious, just like a personality thing, where it's like, this is what we get to do on our day off, and how blessed are we that we can do this, It's just brilliant.
Yeah. And I mean that's one of the best things about touring, especially when you're in, a successful band and you're not just stuck in the back of a smelly van or the green room the whole time, like you all being able to get and see the world because I mean, on top of that, like you're not just doing the Pink dates, like you've been doing your own dates too, like which seems like a mad schedule.
Well, on top of that, we've been doing that, and we've been doing radio shows on top of that, and then also we've been doing Guerilla gigs in Irish bars. So we'll do Pink on a stadium, then the next night we'll play somewhere, whatever, Hard Rock in Boston, and then the next day we'll do a radio show in the morning, play the stadium because we're on before Pink, so we kind of finished around 9, which is very unusual for us as the band. So we still feel like
Hmm.
amped. We don't get to play our full set, um, so we just still have the energy. So if I go for a run in the morning or go for a walk, normally I kind of try and find out the town that I'm in. I'll go like right to the city center and just walk around for 2 or 3 hours. I always find like a small bar that normally has live music on at nighttime. 9 times out of 10, it tends to be an Irish bar. So I'll go in and just ask the owner, say, look, we're playing down the road in the stadium. and they're like, "Oh, what do you do?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm in a band." "What band?" Says the script. They're like, "Oh, what?" Like, and I'm like, "Yeah, can we come maybe after the show and just play a few songs?" And the guys was like, "Yeah, well, yeah, of course." So they throw the kitchen sink at it because it's just like a normal mom's and papa's
Yeah.
bar that they don't get anybody big there or any at any time. So by the time we've come back later on, we've announced it on social media. The bar has put it out on their socials, and you get like local press come down, cover the whole thing. The place is about, if it fits 500 people, there's 2,000 people there. It's just such a fun thing to do when you get off stage. I don't drink, so you have a whole night ahead of you. So like, well, fuck it, let's just go play more music because
Yeah.
that's what I love to do. People think it's work, but it's not when it's fun. People are singing along to you, singing along with the songs and just genuinely having a good time. And the atmosphere in a bar is pretty fun, even if you aren't drinking anyway. You got good food, good bad food, if you know what I mean.
Right, right. That not drinking, I mean, you've talked about that too, no drinking and pulling back on social media and all that. Like how much of this is sort of like one, again, the opportunity that you get to do it, but is it to a degree like replacements? Like you've got to
It's,
keep your because touring
it's
is
exactly.
maddening for the boredom that can happen.
Yeah, if you don't have something to keep your mind occupied, then the road will occupy you. And I feel like if you don't have something to constantly think of that you need to do or hold yourself up to a higher standard or stature, you're probably going to fall down. Because trust me, man, I've been on the road for we've heard the world 7 times. So I know what those months of being lonely on tour can do to you. I know what months of partying can do to you. I know what literally months of it, all of it can do. And this time around, I'm like, I really want it. Like a lot of times, I might be hungover by the time I get to a city, which means I'm not gonna want to go see the city, or I'll just want to like recuperate until the next show and gig. But this time around, I just said I'd like to plan something while I'm there, and then on top of that, we've been shooting these visualizers. So we'll get to the city, maybe like Detroit was the last one that we did. Got to Detroit. We 2 days off in Detroit. Sorry, first day off that we arrived there, and then the following day we had our own show. Well, sorry, it was a stadium show, and then the next day we had our own show. And on the day off, normally have a day off, but me and my friend Matt, the cameraman, we just went around for it was called like urban exploring.
Hmm.
So you just find like a bunch of derelict buildings that you go to. One could be a church, one could be like an old car factory, and you look for ways to get into the building. So there's like some. I mean, it's not legal, but it's not illegal. It's like these things are open. You can go in. It's at your own risk, if you know what I mean.
Right, right.
So we try and find really cool, interesting places to go film that we don't have to spend a lot of money on, that we can do, cost price. But then also it's literally the best way to get to see a city because we're just like walking around. Like, I mean, when I say like, oh, what about that church? We'll walk around the church, go like if we can get we'll get in, we'll, bottom floor, go up to the top, check out the bells. Like it's a really fun thing to do. It takes your mind off the fact that you're out on tour.
Right.
And then, like I said, at the end of the day, we're looking for pieces of, when I say pieces of content, it's actually more, we're looking to shoot an art project, which is me miming one of the songs maybe that we have on the record. And then we just put a cool video together. And it's good because it's kind of like I now know, all the visualizers you'll see is pretty much my day off. So I was like, that's what I did on my day off. I went to a really fun science center where they had a big planetarium and they just like shoot stars on the roof. And I was like saying to the guy, I was like, you must be bored just shooting stars all day long. Like, what about if you shot a band? And he started to kind of like, oh, I'm allowed to get my folder out, So he went to his folder and put up what he's been working on to shoot on the roof. And I was like, cool. So we set the band up right in the middle of this planetarium, and he was just shooting all the projector footage on the roof. And we shot this cool ass video, and it was about 200 quid, $200.
Yeah.
In fairness, it was $200, but we had 7 people with us, right? Because we could take the room for like an hour. And I worked it out. I was like, $200. How much is it into the science center? And it was like 30 quid, but with 7 of us. And I'm like, it cost us less to go in and shoot a music video than it did to just actually pay admission to the science center, if you know what I mean. And we got to go in and have fun, but we do that everywhere we go, and like I said, when you're doing stuff like that and that's so fun, you're not thinking about like, I want to feel good, so I'm gonna go for a burger and chips, or I'm gonna go out for a beer, or I'm gonna go for whatever else tickles your fancy when you're in these states, because fucking everything's legal now as well, isn't it?
That's true. That's true. And especially, that moment in Home is Where the Hurt Is, where, we are who we are. And a little bit of what that song paints anyway, just kind of sing it in action, you know.
Yeah.
Those lyrics in action right there. But and that's a good seg to the album too, because this was your first album in 5 years. And
Yeah.
I know you. I think I read somewhere that you'd already booked studio time even before Mark's passing, but like going into this even back then, like did you have a vision of what this album was going to be? Did you know who you wanted to be in the album?
It kind of all came, I think, obviously after Mark's passing, because that's the only time you can contemplate what it is. It There was no like, oh, I want it to be this, and then we need to chase it. It was more like, what are we gonna do tomorrow? I'm fucking devastated. I can't write. I have been drinking loads. I've been just slamming the food, doing all that kind of stuff, and I just had no will to really want to do anything. And then getting into the studio to do that first song was like, let's try and fucking pull ourselves up by the boots here and see if we can, I don't know, even if we can get through a writing session, see, without breaking down or talking about the elephant in the room, if you know what I mean, or the specter that's there now, because we're in the studio, and it's whenever I would throw out a lyric, I'd wait for him to just be like, oh, what about this, or try and take it and twist it or something. Um, so it was just to see whether that same routine was good anymore, if you know what I mean. Like, it's a weird thing being a songwriter, because I do believe in energies and spirits and this kind of thing, and how this music comes to you. It's all very magical. You know what I mean? I'm sure there is, you could explain it, but for the most part, it's outside my understanding of where it comes from and how you get inspiration. And you can sit down to write a hit song for a whole week, nothing comes. You can go out to a theater later on, and the idea hits you when you're in the toilet. It's like there's so many. There's a lot of my friends who are songwriters. Sorry to digress, but a lot of my friends who are songwriters, they tell me about their hit songs. Every single story about how they wrote a hit song was how they weren't writing a hit song at the time.
Right.
And I can't explain it any other way. And these people have massive hits, just like generational. Every 10 years they have it. Like, I Will Always Love You, Whitney Houston kind of style song or something huge. And they weren't trying to write that song while they were doing it. It was like, oh, it's just I was hungover. I came in. Someone said, "I Will Always Love You," and I was like, yeah, as if that's ever going to work in a song. And so we worked on it. Whatever. 15 minutes later, I was like, oh, I'm gonna go get a burrito, and that's the last thing I heard. And then next of all, like, you know what I mean? Like, whereas everybody's like sitting in writing sessions, being like, okay, we have to write the song that's going to change the world. Never happens. Like, never
Right.
ever happens.
No.
Um, yeah, sorry, back to what we were doing. So, I just felt like trying to write a song to just change the mood a bit, see did we still have it. And the more I started to write, if I was starting to write about other things, I didn't have the same appetite to write just about frivolous shit. Do you know what I mean? Like, oh, well, let's go to the club, or I'm going out drinking, whatever. It didn't mean that. So I started to go like, I really wanted to write about how I'm feeling, like I always do. Um, but it was more special this time around because I had to go to the well to talk about somebody that I used to go to talk to people about other things. So I'm talking about, my best mate and all these things of nearly 30 odd years. How how do I encapsulate him in a song? Is it even the right time to do it? Am I right in the middle of, like, in 5 years? I don't know, but in 5 years' time, will I look back on this album and think, "Fuck, man, he was hurting back then." Like, you listen to what he's writing. Is it the right time to do it? And I feel that's what artists do. That's what artists. They go there whether it's right or not. You know what I mean? That's where the feeling is. I need to go here. I need to just take what's in my inside of me and just dump it out because I can't take it anymore. So that to me is the most beautiful thing about if all that that feeling and emotion to me is the words and melody, then I dump it out on top of the music or whatever on the band, and then that's what happens, and then they kind of take okay, God, that's a really heavy feeling. What about does this drum go with that heavy feeling? I don't know. You kind of start to chew on things and break it out, and um, it just started to speed up and started to like we were enjoying those days
Mm.
because there was a little bit, even though we were in there and you're faced with the fact that you're there without somebody, you are there with people who you've been there for a long time. So there's a lot of familiarity with it. You're not just on your own missing somebody, you're missing somebody with a lot of people. And that's a lot more fun, it seems, to miss somebody with a lot of other people than to do it on your own. But I feel like, the more I started to write on the album, the more confidence I was getting on the fact that I was getting what I needed out, and at the end of the day, I don't write, I know it seems that way, but I don't write music for other people. I write music for me. It's like I've got this feeling that I need to put down on a piece of paper and put it in a musical form. And then if it goes on the shelf, fine, I don't care. But or if somebody else finds something in it that they might find, that might be a release for them, which is what music is. It kind of it's almost like if you're all bubbled up, music can come on and just burst that bubble. Um, it's a beautiful device that it can just unlock the deepest of feelings, the hardest of emotions, all of those things. And I found working on it for me it's just doing exactly what it's always done for me, which is just letting out the steam, let off the air, letting out the gas, whatever that it does, the magic that it does. And so we had a body of work. We had more than a body of work. I mean, we put I think 11 songs on the album or 12. Um, I I ended up writing about 70 for the
Mm.
album, and that covered an experimental stage where I was just trying different things, going a little bit more like 808s and stuff on the lower end, not like rap. I just mean instead of it being like traditional drums and bass, using 808s and seeing does the script, guitars on top with 808 on the bass line, and then me singing on top of it. What does that feel current? And although it did feel current, it didn't feel like the script, which is a different. I know it's usually like, well, you want the script to sound current, but you also want it to sound like the script. You don't want it to sound like, oh shit, they've lost half the band here, with the rhythm and the bass gone. If you know what I mean.
Mm.
So there's a few of those that are on the scrap heap that you never know. Well, I might release them in an EP or something. I might
B-sides.
go on
I'm
the,
always a fan of the B-sides.
yeah, exactly, yeah, on the Z side. You know what I mean, the XYZ side. Um,
But they're
but
like, you know, yes, when I listened to it the first time, I thought this is kind of a dark album, but it's like beautifully dark at the same time. And you get those moments like you don't expect. The title track with Satellite. You do
yeah.
the line about, you think you're wishing on the star and it turns out to be satellite. And I'm like, fuck. Like that's a gut punch right there. And
You
that's
tell me about it, man. Well, you should have felt my gut when I was actually wishing on that star.
mm,
That really happened. I was sitting at the back in Ealing, and I was just having a bit of a moment. It was during COVID, and I was really wishing on a star. And I just had this freak out moment. I was drinking whiskey, and I was looking at the star, and I was like, making a wish, this, that, and the other. And then I went back to look at the star, and it had shifted over, and I was like, oh, my, babes, the fucking star, babe, that star is moving. She's moving. She's like, satellite. And I was like, oh, man, it's fucking heartbreaking.
yeah.
I was like, don't break your heart when you start to realize all the stars you've been wishing on were all just satellites. Quick, get to the piano. And I went in and just and wrote it down. And me and another guy, Ben Leftwich, worked on the lyric to try and make sure that all of the lines were as good punchy as that. For yeah, yeah, for gifting me a necklace that you turned into a noose.
hmm
Just all of the lines that you're just like, oh, what? One after the other. Good punch, left hook, straight right, like all of them in it. But I'm still, like I said, I'm super proud of that song, which is why I end up calling the album after it. It was the last song that Mark would have heard that I wrote that he really liked and wanted to work on for the next record as well. So just seemed to fit.
Yeah, I love that. And it's impressive that knowing that you also, as you were saying, like even working with someone on that song and working with songwriters and knowing how the pop world works in songwriting, that your voice didn't get lost and the sentiment didn't get lost because that's very easy in, that kind of songwriting situations, like the fact that that didn't happen, I think is double impressive.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it went through a few iterations before it ended up being the one that it is, and um, I kind of always come to when we're making an album, like a song like that, because it's such a good idea, it's really hard to not throw the kitchen sink at it, because I want the whole world to hear it. So therefore your thinking is let's put like, let's get this guy to do the drums, let's do this, get strings on it and push it up to the really high key and so you can't think, and then before you know it, you've swamped it in glitz. And when it didn't need it, it just needed a guitar and a delivery. Um, if we were starting off as a new band, I would probably still take that approach. But I feel like we've established ourselves. People know who we are, and that is just the best jacket for that song. Now, if it ends up going and doing something, and ends up getting up the charts, then great. But if not, I know it's in the right way that I want people. It's sitting in the shop window in the right way. Do you know what I mean? It's not all lights and lasers and smoke machines around. And you're like, what the fuck's going on here? It is what it is. It kind of harks back, to an older school of just singer songwriter, James Taylor or somebody like that.
Absolutely. Well, I know I could compliment so many of the songs on here too. I mean, both ways and at your feet. I mean, and home is where the hurt is. I mean, you really have pulled out something so special with what you all do.
Thanks,
And
man.
and I say this every now and then, but if any artist can pull this off, when you're looking at more than a decade into your career, decades into your career, like that's everything right there. So
Yeah,
seriously, congrats on this.
dude, I appreciate it. Yeah, it's not lost on me. What is kind of crazy is it feels like I'm fresh and I've just came into the industry, a year or two. But what I'm realizing now is because we've been in it, and every time record or you want to be at the races, and it's like, oh, we're at the races again. Okay, cool. Here and everyone's running for the race, and it's just like we've done that so long that now I really take it. I'm just sitting back and looking at it and going, wow, because I used to be racing against all of these other bands, and then the next race next year, that band's not there. And then there's the four bands are left, and then there's now only three, and then two, and then one, and it's mad because a lot of the bands, 99% of the bands that came out the same year we did, don't exist anymore.
Mhm.
And it's mad because it's not due to talent because everybody's bloody brilliant. When you get to a certain level, everyone's great. It's like it's you work your ass off, don't take anything for granted, don't believe your own hype, don't get lost in the bullshit. There's things to take people down. It's almost like there's this whole battalion of people. It's like drugs. Well, drugs got him. Alcohol got him. Some, as you can see in the news these days, fucking there's everything going on, pulling people down. And like I said, to be able to get to, we're at 17 years as the script, but myself and Mark are in the industry nearly over 30 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. You are who you are at this point, especially.
We are who we are who we are.
Well, congrats on Satellite and seriously, I'm loving the contents online too. It's been a real pleasure to talk to you about it. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Dude, listen, anytime at all. Thank you very much for the support, and we look forward to coming back stateside probably next year.
And thanks to my guest. Also, thanks to you for checking out the episode in the series. Before you get out of here, hit that subscribe button. Again, you get 3 brand new interviews every single week. New one every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at right here on YouTube, or of course anywhere in podcast land, including iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podchaser, NPR, or WFPK.org as well. A great way to keep up with your favorite artists and discover new ones as well. Then after that, actually head over to WFPK.org. That's where I do a show Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern. It's an hour full of song premieres, music news, anniversary spins, bonus interviews, Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern at WFPK.org. Consequence has your music and film news. You can also find me on the social media spots, Facebook, Instagram, mostly on Twitter. All three of them, the address is at Kyle Meredith. Do hope you like and follow along. That does it for another edition. I'm Kyle Meredith. I'll see you next time.